Okay,
Definitely.
and let's get started. I'll be showing some slides. I need to ask participants to mute themselves, please.
All kind of upper management executive.
There we go. Okay, and here we go. So the slides are always helpful, so I try to use a lot of them. What to eat when you're competing. So with ACC, as you know, this information is for educational purposes only. Congratulations on being here. I already thank Lori. She's wonderful. I thank you guys also for my support, everyone at ACC, because you're helping my daughter so much through her, academic and athletic future. So I really appreciate it. Congrats to all the parents and athletes here because you could be resting or doing homework or doing all those things that are pending and you're here learning. So this is a wonderful thing. I love my job. I'm an athlete. I'm a sports parent. I get to do this all the time. Sometimes it's via Zoom, thanks to this telecommunication. Sometimes it's in person. And I just absolutely love sharing knowledge and learning from you guys. And my young athletes keep me young. Okay. So I've seen that these are a lot of our challenges in sports nutrition can be like looked at in a certain way. Okay, so we're going to have sometimes,
Does
or
this mean that we
unfortunately,
have
pretty
to?
often,
Oh,
um, what can be an athlete that is undernourished. And it can show up in a number of ways, right? Then we can have athletes that are not completely struggling, but they have like fluctuating levels of energy. So why do I feel good? Sometimes I have a poor practice and I have a good one, but I don't know what's going to happen. I just kind of show up and hope that today will be a good day. Or maybe they're doing well, but they don't finish strong. Sometimes there's weight loss, or sometimes there's difficulty putting on muscle. So I get this 5'7", 5'9" girls, they're 16, they're 17, they're tall, they're strong, but they're kind of plateauing and they weigh about 125. So sometimes we see that. Sometimes it's with the boys, right? They have a growth spurt, then they have another one, then they start doing doubles. Another interesting moment in the life of a young athlete is when they get their driver's license. So sometimes things are coming along great, and now they're driving themselves everywhere. And planning and structure kind of takes a little bit of a side turn, And then a few months later or a few weeks later, they kind of get back on track. But unfortunately, nutrition tends to fall to the very bottom once they don't have the structure of the parent driving them, but it's part of their growth and learning process. But a lot of times they're not putting on muscle, they're not getting stronger. Okay. And they need a certain amount of muscle. Obviously, body types will be different. Sometimes they're getting sick. And so my little girl, unfortunately, did not make it to the Speedo Winter Classic this weekend because she was sick and she was sick enough to warrant an antibiotic and she didn't get to compete. And about 4 or 5 months ago, she didn't get to compete either. I think she did one event and then she had to pull out of the meet. And I see this all the time. And a lot of athletes are super strong. And if the illness isn't that big, they'll kind of, they're a trooper and they'll go through it. But you can't train well if you're getting sick all the time and you can't compete well either. Okay. And so you're kind of losing that continuity. So one of the things that we'll do as our nutrition is better is that we will get sick less often, which is pretty good, right? Sometimes they're bloated. They don't feel good. They feel heavy. Sometimes they have acne and they want to go to this dermatologist and get all these different treatments. And by just cleaning their gut, especially their liver, they're going to have beautiful glowing skin. So these are a lot of challenges that I see, and it's related to my teen athletes. Then obviously in the mindset and mental health area, but like I said, the workshop that I did at noon today was specifically on mental health, and we looked at all the nutrition components that impact the brain. So super, super interesting, and all the studies that are going on around mental health for adolescents and for athletes. So very important. And then if we go to number 5, sometimes it's about overcoming something. We're doing all these things, we're getting solutions, but there's something that's kind of stubborn. It's a problem that's hard to solve, or we just want to completely maximize and optimize our nutrition. So then we need to go to different tools. So for the undernourished athlete, in general terms, we just need to eat more. Okay. please don't skip breakfast. We need to figure out how to eat breakfast. There's 10 different strategies for it if they're open to considering how. Something could be as simple as, 3 grapes or something like that, but we figure out how to have breakfast. But we need to eat more. And sometimes the athlete is having 60% of their calories after 5 p.m. So they're eating enough over a 24-hour period, but it's not spread out adequately. So sometimes just by eating more, everything else starts to fall into place. Sometimes it's not really about that. It's that there could be a nutrient deficiency or a special condition or the nutrient timing. We're not getting the right macronutrient at the right time. So now we learn a little bit more. It's not just about eating more in quantity, but we need to get a little bit more savvy with some of these things. Then another goal could be reduce inflammation. Okay, how do we reduce inflammation? And I worked with a ton of swimmers that had high levels of inflammation, and we can see it because they're tired, because they don't recover well. Also see it in their skin, also see it in how their body doesn't take a whole lot of things well. And sometimes it's obviously paired with their doctor. So they go to their doctor, they have some tests, and then the doctor says, you need to work on this. And I come in and I support the specific strategy and the implementation, because most of it is up here. And then when you need to get to the mindset and the mental health, we need to heal the gut. And that's actually a big part of everything, especially 1, 2, and especially 3. But when we heal the gut, we're going to have a lot of success in a lot of areas. Okay, I've shared with some of you before. That's how we healed my daughter, the one I just said, Lori, who's studying neuroscience.
Right.
So we came back from a disease that's called lupus, and autoimmune disease, by healing the gut. Pretty cool. Right. And then finally, if we really need to, and if you're super, super, super focused, then we do the poop test and we see what's going on in the microbiome. And then we do a DNA assessment. There's several types. I'm about to study and learn about another one that's even more detailed and focused. But sometimes we need to understand this better, because your genes are also going to tell you what foods you can take better and foods you can't take better. So that's super cool. Okay. So but with a lot of people, just by eating more, we're improving. Just by eating more at the right time, timing it correctly, we're improving. Just by incorporating cleaner eating on number 3, we're improving. And so I kind of see it cascading down. Okay. I won't really review this too much, because all of you, I think, are pretty well versed on this. You know our macros. Carbs are king. We get our energy from there. Proteins are there. We also need them, and we need for muscle repair and recovery. And fats are super important for overall health and also for brain health. And a macro balanced diet is an approach that says, okay, for you, we need to balance it in a certain way. Now, I want to show you a hack that's called PFC. And right after this, we're going to do like one competition day and look at what that could look like. But PFC every 3 came across my life about 8 years ago, and it's just been amazing. Okay, so it means that you get protein, fat, and carb around every 3 hours. And it could be in different proportions. It's not going to be 33% each time necessarily, most likely not. And it's going to be different per person, per need. But if we can get used to PFC every 3, then we're going to stabilize sugar levels. And so we're going to avoid those crashes. And this can work for you guys too, right? For the parents that are here, the coaches. Then you get to enjoy sustained energy. And you can train well. And because your brain is also receiving the energy that it needs, the 2-pound brain that takes up 20% of the calories for function, you can concentrate and learn concepts and retain concepts better. So that's going to be good for them in their field of study as well. And then obviously to perform better. So you have consistent energy throughout your entire practice or practices. A lot of times it's morning practice. And then in the afternoon, you got 45 minutes of dry lands, and then you got another hour and a half or 2 hours. That's 3 practices. Okay, so you've been eating and you've been accumulating your energy stores, and everything's been working throughout the day. You're more likely to go well throughout that day that requires so much energy from you. And obviously improving recovery. Okay, the muscles are super tired. The whole body's tired. We need to be providing that recovery. So PFC is a really, really good tool. And I've had so much success applying it because it's easy to remember. It's easy to learn. It helps you reach your energy and your macro needs. So if you need 3,500 calories a day and you have frequent meals, you're more likely to reach that target. It's easy to plan, and this is a lot of fun. Well, between English and algebra, I can have my trail mix. So they have their nuts and seeds with the raisins and all this stuff. I'm going to admit somebody. Then there's a teacher, ex-teacher. She's nice. I can eat in her class. So they know that they can pull out a half sandwich or a cereal bar in the class. And so we plan out eating throughout the entire day. And then we assign roles. Mom helps with this. I do this. I pack that. And it all works out. But PFC just gives us like a really good baseline for everybody to understand it easily and for everybody to plan ahead. So that's been wonderful. And I love this last benefit with the happy face. Okay, there's a lot of stress around nutrition in the house sometimes, not in all houses, not in all households and families. Usually a parent, such as me, been there, done that, we're stressed because we see that they're not eating what they need to. And we're concerned about their health, about their joints, about their bones, about everything. And we're like, just, eat what you want. And then the kid, I can't stand mom anymore because I can't do anything right. She's always judging me. She's angry with me. There's a lot of conflict. So there's either conflict or there's like this silent rebellion, like they just kind of say yes, but then they don't really do it. And so if you have a strategy like this and we put emotion out of the equation, we say, well, how can we all achieve these goals together? It gives us a really good baseline so that we can all work together as a family and just, plan the diet from hey, let's be scientific. Let's learn about this approach and not an approach like, you're not doing it right and that kind of thing. So this is very, very productive and effective. Okay. Let me just check very quickly, guys. Okay, I just needed to make sure because I was seeing some people there. Okay. Let me share again. Lori, if anybody has questions in the chat that you want me to answer right away, please let me know. Okay. Apologize, guys. My Zoom is stuck. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I had muted it. A good question and one that was from my children as well. My kids are always eating all the time. Is this normal? Picking and snacking, and on the flip side of not eating at all, they're eating constantly. How do they? What makes that craving? Is it sugar, caffeine? How do you manage that always wanting to eat and snack?
It could be a number of things. Excellent question. So if they're not getting enough fiber, for example, they're having a hard time getting full. Or they're not getting enough protein or fat, right? Because those help us fill up more than the simple carbs. If they have a nutrient deficiency, they could also be doing that. If they're undergoing a growth spurt, they really need it. And so there's going to be certain times in the year where they really need all that food. And then sometimes they do wait between meals, but we don't notice. And when we see them eat, they can't stop eating. But maybe they did spend 4 or 5 hours without eating. So by the time they get to the moment of eating, they're like at a 10 on the hunger scale. And so they start to eat and it just seems to be ingested super, super fast. Okay, so what we need to do is just make sure that they are eating things that will fill them. And that's where we go to the potato, the sweet potato. We go to more whole grain versus white grain, because those are more filling. And we just observe. And if we feel and they feel and they agree, because it's like a collaborative process, that, hey, this is a lot of food and it's all being used up. It's not representing any bloating. It's not representing any unwanted weight gain. It's not representing anything negative in performance. Then it really probably was what they needed. There's a lot of watching and observing and really, really being mindful of the body. So maybe they did need 5,000 calories instead of 4, which is what we would have thought, right? You got a 6'2" kid with 3 practices a day. Maybe he did need that much. And sometimes we can also help them with the cravings. There's a whole project that's really wonderful for helping with cravings, but you can also help them get away with special tools. Are you really hungry or are you bored? Are you really hungry that you need the nutrition and the extra food, or are you eating so fast that we're not allowing the signals to be sent to the brain that you're full? So in that case, you need to eat a nice, healthy, abundant plate, and then we need to wait 20 minutes before having seconds. And so that will allow the body to process and to send the hunger and satiety signals. So it could be a number of things. It could be, their cravings are so high. And so then we need to do things to overcome cravings, which could mean nutrition, helping to clean the gut, doing things to change the taste buds with their strategies and hacks for that. But it could be a number of reasons. So we kind of use a checklist to figure out what it is. And at some point, just be open to the idea that, yep, I really need to eat all of that. Okay.
Maria, I have another question. I'm sorry, but I'm thinking of it now and I'll forget it in 10 minutes. Can you talk and make it real quick? Because I know we have a lot of boy dads and moms on here too, not relevant, but can you talk about iron deficiency in girl swimmers? I was one
Yeah.
of them. I was one of them, and a whole bunch of my gal friends wound up being the same way. We were all distance freestylers, first ones in, last ones out. But we didn't know that, we didn't know that much about that way back in the dark ages, but it's pretty prevalent now.
Of course, of course. So iron, which is super important, is lost, through the sweat, through breathing, through the skin, just like a lot of our minerals. But iron is also lost through menstruation. Okay, so that's one thing where the girls are different. And it's also interesting how it affects women, and it also affects women who have a lot of pounding. So if you're runners, that's going to affect you a whole lot. But the low iron levels are obviously going to lead to fatigue and decreased endurance, because then now you can't produce as much hemoglobin, and you're not producing enough hemoglobin, so you can't carry oxygen to all of the cells. Okay, and it starts to show in a number of ways. It can impact the skin. So with women, we need to get more iron. Obviously, athletes are going to need, I don't know, like 25 to 30% more iron than the general population. And then females are going to need even more, like 8 or 10 milligrams more than males. And so we need to be really, really intentional about that. People are going to want to supplement, I know, and it's okay. Supplements are great a lot of times, but let's go for food first. And so some iron rich foods that you can definitely have are going to be like your meat, right? Your red meat and all your soy products, your edamame, your soy milk. And so these are going to be good for you, your cream of wheat. And so when you use these things, you're going to get some iron. Okay. And these are just some things that you can do. Start to be very abundant with that kind of thing. So I had a coach at a swim team that told me, I don't want to talk to the girls. I'm glad you're going to come in and do just a module on women's nutrition. But some of them want to be vegetarians and I'm like, a little bit of, beef is going to be your best friend. And I'm like, yeah, there is a lot of iron in beef and a lot of other good things, but we need to be very focused on that. Because it's important to get those iron levels up. One of the girls that you sent me, that you introduced me to, we worked on that. Her iron was really low. Remember, I think
Yeah.
I have her statistics here. She's a sweet girl, and she's come on these programs before and given her testimonial. So she was a hard worker. And we did supplement, but we supplemented a few months and then we stopped with the supplement when we got her iron levels fine. And now she's built the habit of eating foods that are high in iron. So sometimes you need a supplement for a long term, and sometimes you need it just occasionally. But we need to start getting those iron-rich foods, all of us, including men, but obviously more the girls. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, we skipped ahead a little bit. So good. So the completed our PFC application. I'll probably be doing some videos and reels on that on social media to talk about PFC. And ironically, this is my daughter, like I said, Mireya. And then we have a plate. And this was her plate at at the school dining hall. And so in this case, PFC was showing a C more than 50% of the plate. Okay, so different times of the year when you're training at full intensity, You might be eating more carbohydrate. And then in certain times of the year, when you're tapering or when you're not training as hard, or maybe you're a short distance swimmer or a diver that's not going to be training as hard in her dry lands and running, then we need to bring down the percentage of the carb and build it up with other things, or maybe bring the starchy carb down, which is the rice, and go higher on other carbs, such as, raw carrots and celery and the other carbohydrates that are not the starchy vegetables, so they're not as nutrient dense as caloric. But right then and there, that kind of looks like a PFC plate, right? So it's not very complicated, and it's important to learn those things. And I've shared this with you. Not in competition day, just in general, this is important for us to have. So a full PFC meal about 3 hours ahead. Sometimes it's 2 hours ahead, and it should be fine unless you overeat, right? Unless you have like 3 burgers and fries. And then we want a pre-training or pre-competition meal 30 to 60 minutes before. So here we go moderate with the protein, we go moderate with the fat, and we go high with the carb. Intra training is called easy carb replenishment. And so when you're training for 90 minutes or more, you need to have something that's got a little bit of carbohydrate. I don't think any of our swimmers and divers are going to be reaching for, hopefully they would, watermelon or blueberries or something, or a little bit of a banana during practice. So we need to go to the drink. So we need to go to the sports beverage. But if you get the Gatorade Zero, well, you're kind of defeating the purpose because there's no carb there. It's just artificial sweetener that's not good for the brain or the gut, and it's not giving you energy. Okay. So that's why I don't fight, the sugary drinks. They're not necessarily bad. We just need to use, when are we using the sugar, how much, and for what? We need to understand sugar. And so I said we need to get back to sugar in one of my videos, but we need simple carbohydrate replenishment. Our young kids don't have the capacity to store glycogen as much as an adult body. So even if they do carb loading and there's some glycogen being stored in the muscles and the liver, it's not as much as the body of an adult. So we need to replenish a little faster. That's why I told these athletes the other day, I guess they were training swimming as triathletes. Oh, it's okay. I go to morning practice on an empty stomach. It's not a big deal. I'm like, well, you're 40. Okay, we're talking about 14-year-olds here. So it's a little bit different. And then afterwards, we have a PC beverage or meal. Okay, that's just protein and carb. There's nothing wrong necessarily with the fat, but we need to be very intentional about getting the P and C, and about 3 times as much carb as protein right after. So I've covered this before with you guys, but on meat day, we want to feel light. Okay, we don't want to feel heavy. And so athletes will tend to go to the extreme of eating too little more than overeating, because you feel horrible when you overeat. Okay. Oh my God. But you also want to optimize your energy and endurance, and you don't want to run out. You want to be able to finish strong, and you want to be able to have that energy for the sprint when you need it. So that's like this whole balance is what we're looking for. So think about this. Please take a picture if you find this beneficial. In the morning, say it's a 1-session meet. Okay, maybe it's the afternoon or the morning, but 3 hours before, you get your plate and you go at least 50% carb. And then you add a lean protein. So it could be salmon, it could be tofu. It could be, I guess, low fat cheese in a way. It could be, but you're avoiding fried things, obviously, and you're avoiding things high in fat. And this is why I also educate a lot about things like mayonnaise and dressing and things like that, because you can get a whole lot of fat and a whole lot of calories in 2 tablespoons of Thousand Island or ranch dressing. So we need to be careful, okay? We don't want too much fat in this moment, and we definitely don't want those fats that are coming, those processed fats, right? Not the healthier fats. We also want things that are high in magnesium and potassium. Oh, yeah, well, feed or not. That's why we share this kind of thing with you. Well, what things are high in potassium? Your grains, your avocado, your hemp seeds, your peanut butter, your spinach. Okay, so we need to make sure that we get this kind of thing. What foods are high in potassium? You can all probably name bananas, all right? But we can also have potato and sweet potato. Those are high in potassium as well, and prunes and raisins and oranges. So we focus on these things for the 3 hour or 4 or 2, 3 hour on average, big PFC meal. Then we go to 30 to 60 minutes before. So now we want something that's easily digestible, and you may add small amounts of protein. And this is where you try these things out when you're not competing or at the practice meet. And so your kid will know, work with them. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of yogurt with granola and fruit. How did you feel? Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of cottage cheese with granola and fruit. You know what? Let's try it without the yogurt or without the milk. And let's just see how it goes just with the carb. And so you test things out and you know what's going to feel good. So when you get to the meet, you're not experimenting right then and there. Okay. Now we go to during the meet. So now we want carbs and fluids and electrolytes. Okay. And we want to go low or minimum on the protein and the fat and the fiber. You're like, what? We want to go low on fiber? Yes. Remember, easy carb replenishment are carbs that we're going to digest quickly. So we don't want a lot of fiber right now because that's going to make absorption slower. I love tart cherry juice. You could also have, natural juices. It's going to be good. Like I said, water, Gatorade, maybe a snack bar. So it depends. We don't want too much protein. We don't want too much fiber. We don't want too much fat. This is a bar that I was snacking on as I was coming back from the hospital where we spent several hours today. I like it. It's got sugar. Okay, there's sugar here and there's fat from the macadamia. So the macadamia nut is giving me a lot of good things, healthy fats and some protein. And they also have added sugars, and that's okay. I'm doing this willingly and I know what I need. So there's some bars, some snack bars, protein bars that you can buy or you can make your own at home, right? Which I love because then you can control the ingredients. So that's during the meet, and kids will try, right? They'll try different things to see what they can tolerate. Energy chews are super popular. I don't use them a whole lot. Some of my kids do. Candy. So if you're getting candy such as gummy bears, just turn it over, read the label, make sure there's no fat. Okay. I don't really like those too much because those colors, those dyes are not good, for the brain. But I allow them occasionally, right? Remember 80-20, 80% healthy, 20% just chill. So I allow some of those gummy candies for my daughter. And then afterwards, we got that 30 to 60 minute window. We want to start recovery. We want to accelerate that. You can have, think of like a cheese stick or a couple of cheese sticks where you're getting maybe 15 or 20 grams of protein, and you want to get 2 to 3 times the amount of carbohydrate. So this is with us where a sandwich or a wrap comes in. If you have nothing available, go to your chocolate milk. And to get antioxidants, I would just go for a lot of fruit, right? Your kiwi, your strawberry, your grapes and whatnot. Even bell peppers, right? If there's something with bell peppers, it's got a lot of vitamin C. And obviously always focus on fluids and electrolytes. So this could be like your 1 session meet. Okay. Is there any questions or comments here, Lori, before I go to a 2 session example? Here we go.
No,
Okay.
sorry. You always you caught me when I couldn't find the unmute button. No, I don't have any.
Okay. All right. And so now let's move. Oh, I can't find the button. Hold on 1 sec. Okay, excellent. So now we go to a prelims and finals day. And we can have breakfast, usually what, at 6? Something like that, right? 6, 6:15, 6:30. So it can be eggs and toast, but we want to go high in carb, remember? About 50% carbohydrate, right? At least. So we can have a couple eggs, we can have some toast, fruit, if they tolerate a bit of yogurt, juice, or you could go for protein waffles. And the reason I say protein waffles is that if you just have regular pancakes, the protein content's too low. So you need to get one of the high protein mixes or add a lot of eggs to it, or make sure that it's like a high quality, I don't know, maybe some kind of almond or oats pancakes, and that should work. Then you're warming up at 7. Okay, so you need to hydrate. Then you have a snack, assuming the meet starts at 9. So this is a moment where, once again, you need to try it. Parents and kids, try it together. What's working well for me? What sits well with me? Is it applesauce? Is it half a sandwich? Is it a banana, half a banana? Is it some trail mix? If it's trail mix, then a little bit lower on the nuts and seeds and a little bit higher on the fruit part, the dried fruit, dates, raisins, whatever. And then Cheerios. Sometimes I see them grab Cheerios. It can be crackers. I I saw a swimmer from the Woodlands who represents Mexico at Junior Pan Am Games. Okay, swimming, the backstroker, I forget her name now. And she was walking with a big Ziploc bag, one of those freezer Ziploc bags, and she had macaroni in it. And as she was in the hotel, walking out to the car, walking out to warm up for the meet, she was grabbing the cold macaroni with her fingers and eating it. Now, my hat's off to you because I don't know that that was very tasty, but she was committed to getting her carbohydrate right before the meet. Okay, so these things are very interesting. You see how each athlete is focused and they're doing what they need. Then you have your lunch. So those events, you can have three between 9 and 12. If your events are 20, 30 minutes apart, you know, you're probably not going to want to do anything but take a couple sips of water or maybe some Gatorade or something. But if you have 45 minutes to an hour, that's where you start to say, well, what can I do? Some apple slices, some bananas, some grapes. The fastest digesting fruit is watermelon. That's what I found. I mean, the reports say it too, but it's something that digests very quickly and very easily, and it's 92% water. Okay, so it helps to hydrate as well. So you can figure out with a little bit of trial and error, what are those things to have between events? Now we go to lunch. Once again, I want a full PFC meal. So it can be your chicken, rice, and vegetables, fruits. It can be a light pizza. What I mean by light is not the thick crust and not a whole lot of cheese on it. Okay, so go a little bit lighter on the cheese just because cheese has a huge fat content. What happens if you have sushi? Who likes sushi? A lot of people like sushi, right? Um, my son who swims for A&M had a funny thing the other day. Their practices are really, really tough, you know, because it's high intensity. About 2 weeks ago, they weren't tapering at all. And he said, I was so hungry, I had 60 sushi rolls. 60. Okay, I don't know. I think that's a lot. 60 sushi rolls. So even though there's nothing wrong with sushi, it's good. It's carbohydrate. It's rice. It has little pieces of avocado. It's the carb to protein ratio is going to be too wide. It's not giving me enough protein, so I'm going to have to contribute another protein source. Most sushis, right? And the negative thing is that they typically don't go light on the amount of soy sauce. And soy sauce is not our best friend. Okay, it's got MSG, it's got a lot of sodium, and they tend to soak the sushi in it. So I would just say if you can keep the soy sauce to a limited amount, probably nothing wrong with sushi. Okay, and also make sure that you're getting enough protein. And then the naps. So I know this program is not on sleep, Lori, but it's important. I talked about it a lot in my noon session. It's important that they try to rest, even if they don't fall asleep. It's important to stop, to take a bath or a shower, or to put their legs up. It's important to rest. If you can get rid of electronics for a little while, they're probably going to want to be on their phone and, you know, be talking to their friends and sharing things. But if you can do that, rest. So a really good thing you guys can do is plan ahead. Don't wait till you're there to start to figure out where you're going for lunch. If you can pre-order things from food services, or if you can be very strategic about what you're keeping in your mini fridge, then you're going to save a lot of time and a lot of trouble. Okay. And so this is a sample mini fridge where I have those balanced breaks, you know, which is PFC. I got my cheese and my almonds and my dried fruit. I got a lot of oranges. I got my plain Greek yogurt. Some juices. I also have yogurt with the fruit. I have some ham and some whole grain bread and some grapes. Okay. And you might want other stuff, you know, other times I have hummus. I have a lot of avocado. I just typically don't keep it there, but I definitely have avocado here. And so you can be really intentional about planning the meals, especially at the away meets, so that you don't get caught off guard. So that's another tool that we can use, which is planning and not wasting time. Go to my website and download the Athlete's Guide, What to Eat During Travel Meets, and it gives you examples like Jimmy John's, this, you know, it says some examples of things you can have for breakfast and lunch. And somebody had asked, remember, Lori, about the vegetarian athletes. So I have a little bit of information for that. Okay, so a little trivia. Do you think beans, peas, and lentils are vegetables or protein?
Protein. Vegetables.
Both. Yeah. They're vegetables and they're protein. And so when you have a vegetarian app, that's how you get the protein sources, and that's how the nutritionist counts for that. But they're definitely both. Okay. So beans and peas and lentils or legumes are excellent sources of plant protein. Okay. They're similar to meat, poultry, and fish in their contribution. That's why they're considered part of the protein food group. And they have fiber and they have folate and iron and zinc and potassium. So that's why you can count it as either one. Okay. But these are some tips and some advice that I'd like to give you as well before I get back to the vegetables and the vegetarians, because sometimes your problem could be the low appetite. So break down meals, go to small, low calorie, calorie dense snacks, more nut butters. You're going to be best friends with smoothies, right? And you're going to be able to put things in cookie mix as well. Every time you're baking cookies, there's extra protein in there, cookies and brownies. And you're going to use a lot of liquid supplementation, okay? The sports drinks and milkshakes and whatnot. Now we need to reduce fiber. And then we can also make it appealing. So mom, dad, as they're walking in the door, that's got to be coming out of the oven. It needs to look pretty. It needs to look good. So it looks good. It smells good. And so we get them to want to eat. So going back to my plant-based folks, I hope this works and that the program will get stuck. Please know that studies are showing that when children are 5 through 10 years old and they're in a fully plant-based diet, they are going to grow an average of 3 centimeters less. 3 centimeters. So 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. So a little bit over an inch less than their counterparts who are having animal protein. And that's been studied. Okay, so it's just important for us to know. The study was done somewhere in Europe, and then the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition was a part of it, and now it's been published in the government. So it's been validated. Okay, so if we're doing this, and the weaker bones too. Now that some of them had a better profile from their cardiovascular part, probably because there's less saturated fat in their diet because they're not getting the animal protein. So there's pros and cons. I understand that. I just want you to make informed choices. Okay. So if you are a plant-based population and you want to have plant-based athlete, then we can still be careful. Okay. We need to be very intentional. I've had some young athletes or young teenagers that say, oh, I'm vegetarian. Okay, well, what they mean is that I just eat pasta and bread. For me, a vegetarian still gets protein, right? They're focused on it and they get it from these other sources. And so we also need to be careful about iron, once again, which was Lori's question, and B12. You're going to need that. So we need to focus on spinach, lentils, and fortified cereals, and we might need supplementation. When you are getting your plant-based protein, which has a lower bioavailability than animal-based protein, vitamin C is helpful. So it'll help for you to absorb that protein a little bit better. And these are some good sources of plant-based protein. So tofu is going to give you about 20 grams of protein. Edamame is pretty good. Tempeh and soy milk. If you get something like this, and I want to make sure I can see myself here because I don't know why I can't see myself anymore. There we go. Almond milk has 1 gram of protein. So they put like 2 or 3 almonds in what would be your 8-ounce serving. So you need to go to a certain brand. Like I found this at the Publix here in Florida. And so here they're intentional and they're giving you more almonds per serving. So you get 5 grams of protein per serving. But your typical like Silk brand and all these others are giving you 1 gram of protein. That's not enough. So I drink some of the soy or cashew, was it almond and cashew from soy? But the one that says 8 grams per serving. Like I look for the protein content. I don't just say, oh, oat milk or almond milk, because most of those have 1 gram of protein. You can also try, if it's like a lactose intolerance issue, you can try the milk, what's it called? Fairlife, which we've had, and it's delicious. And that one, even my kid who's not doing that great with dairy, like she's kind of sensitive to it. It digests well because of the way it's processed, and it has 14 grams of protein per 8-ounce serving. So maybe try the Fairlife milk. Okay. I have a soccer player I'm working with, and she started calling the Ezekiel and Dave's Killer Bread the protein bread because we were doing the reading labels education, and she saw that like a slice of white bread will typically have 1 gram of protein, and a slice of whole grain bread will have 3, 4, or 5, depending on the size of the slice. So it's giving you about 3 times as much protein as your typical white bread. So in her mind, she just started calling it the protein bread. It's like, okay, call it what you want, honey. Just eat it. So that's pretty cool. And then, like I said, with your legumes, you're getting about 12 to 15 grams in your beans. That we eat a lot of beans from Guatemala. And then chickpeas is about 15 as well, with lentils being super high. And lentils are super high in iron as well. And finally, this is some advice. I have not tried it yet, but this is fermented beef. This product was approved by the FDA a few months ago. It's very new. It's on my to-do list. I'm going to try this in the first quarter of the year because it's giving you the benefits of the red meat without the negative things, because the probiotics have changed the composition, and so it doesn't give you the NU5GC, the harmful bad stuff. So it's kind of like you can have your cake and eat it. Okay, so like I said, this is super, super new. I have not tried it yet. If any of you have tried it already, please comment. But it's definitely something I'm going to be checking the recent reviews, and I'm going to be going for it. And this is the one we said, Lori. So I'm not saying these vitamins and minerals are more important than others, because they're all important. But it's often that we find that young athletes are deficient in these. Okay. All vitamins are important. There's no such thing as the most important vitamin. Well, which is the most important finger? What's more important, your arm or your foot? They're all important. There's a role for everything, but there's a lot of deficiencies here. Okay. And you'll be getting a copy of this, so let me know if you need it. And here's the Riley, our girl from New Jersey. She had an iron deficiency and fatigue. Remember her?
Of course.
Girl. Super smart. And so we were going for a target of about 123 grams. Okay. I think she weighed like 139. Her weight did not change a lot. Her body composition did, and her endurance was amazing. And then we did leave the supplementation aside after a few months, but it was great. And this was kind of like what we were following. So you can see the PFC percentages all the way at the right. And this is pretty cool because I got to check her times the other day. And, she's a long distance swimmer. She kept saying in that video, I have a stomach of steel, because she eats a lot. But that was a 27-second drop in her 1650 free and a 34-second drop. Okay. So it was amazing. It was amazing. She's a hard worker. She did great. Her skin was beautiful. Her, other wins other than the time, we leveled her iron levels. Her energy was consistent. She was healthier, and she had fun eating, and she became like a leader on travel meets, because she would plan out where the whole team would go eat. And after 5 months, she initially got a little scared because she saw herself smaller. She's like, when I'm wearing my tech suit, I look smaller. And I said, okay, let's make sure we're hitting the goals that we said. Okay. We need to be up there in the 2,700, 2,800 calorie range. But after she did this for several months, and then she got to really focus on her strength training during the summer, all that good nutrition started to pile up, and that's where she gained a lot of muscle and tone. And so it was very good to see kind of the whole progression of what she did. And my last message is, better great. Okay, you don't have to ditch chips, find a better version. You don't have to ditch ice cream. Look for a better version, or even another ice cream that doesn't have. I'm actually putting out a video on ice cream next week, if you all want to watch it. And so we make small improvements. Okay, so it's all about progress, not perfection, and not stress and guilt. Okay, we need to do this in a fun way. And like I said, a little bit less Chick-fil-A Whataburger and all that stuff, and little by little. So these are the 4 secrets. This is my pitch. I have leveraging the power of nutrition, developing an invincible mindset, eating and training for your body's unique needs, or learning and applying one simple habit at a time. It's kind of like my 4 pillars. The Powerful Athlete is a coaching program where you adopt new beliefs and develop nutrition and mindset habits that enable you to reach your true potential. Questions? I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you.
Maria, it's Lori. I have one question comment. I think how you got to get not only the athlete on board, but you have to get the parent on board. And the earlier you start with good nutrition, the better chance that you have of that student athlete carrying it through college. So you got to get the parents' buy-in, right? How do you do that without offending the parents who think they're doing the right thing with their child and really and truly probably have never thought about this and the way you just explained it before?
A lot of times it's helping the parent do something that was so hard for me to do because that was a weak area for me, which is I wanted to protect and micromanage my kids. I wanted to do that. I know better, I went to the Olympics. I know about nutrition. Why would you know better? And a lot of parents here are well versed. They read a lot or they lead very healthy, fit lives themselves, or they're former athletes, or for whatever the reason, they know a lot. But, if we keep trying to force it, it's like, what? And as probably all parents know, in these adolescent years, developmentally, they're like tuning us out. And it's okay. It's fine. It's part of the process. And so whatever the parents are saying is not going to be the most important thing, as much as they love us and admire us deep down and all that stuff. So sometimes coming in and having a third party help out is important. But I always ask the child in front of the parent, that's why the discovery session is so important. How committed are you to doing this? And if the child is looking at the process and saying, I'm committed, then I say, okay, mom and dad, are you excited? Are you willing to support them? Are you willing to let, Johnny be in the driver's seat and you're going to be the cheerleader, part chef, supporter, all of this, the shopper. But you're not going to be able to be micromanaging, because Johnny's going to make his decisions. And so they're like, yeah, they kind of commit to it together. So it's a lot of fun. Okay, it's a lot of fun. And it's just kind of setting the right expectations that the child is not going to stop eating junk food just because they started working with me. And 2 weeks later, they never touch junk food again. That's not going to happen. Plus, I eat junk food. Yeah. So it's kind of telling the parent, what do you want to do? Do you want to help them and kind of take a little bit of a step back and just be a little bit more neutral, poker face, even when it's like, well, Maria told you not to eat that and you're still eating it, because that's a typical thing that they'll want to say. Just give it time. Just give it time. And when the kid sees not being judged all the time, this is cool, I get to do whatever I want, that kind of stress kind of starts to come down. And we need a quick win. Sometimes we just go with more fruit. And they can just eat more fruit in the first few weeks. That's the low-hanging fruit. They start to feel better, and now they buy in for the next step. So it's kind of getting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And it can be a lot of fun.
Well, the ultimate goal, I'm going to jump off after this last comment. I've got a call coming up in a minute. The ultimate goal, I think, at least it was for me and my children, who were both student athletes, was to get them to learn how to eat to the best of their ability in high school so they could carry that into college with them. And they knew what good and what were poor choices. So I think the earlier that you start with good nutrition, the better chance they have of being able to do that in college.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So moving into Gen, is it possible to rest or nap for too long? It is possible. We find that 60 to 90 minutes is a good time. If you can't get 60, that's okay. Sometimes they'll tell you themselves, I'm too groggy if the nap's too long. Usually the problem with napping is that it interrupts their sleep cycle at night. And this happens not so much during competition, but when they're napping at about 3 or 4 p.m. Because then they fall into the non-REM stages of sleep, and they fall into the deep sleep that they should probably not have a whole lot of 4 or 5 hours before when they need to be sleeping. You also need to do that with a little bit of trial and error. So I've seen athletes that do have a 3-hour nap and they come back and do great in the afternoon. Summer McIntosh takes 3 hours naps, in case that's helpful, Miss Jen. But figure that out with your child, because a nap could be a little bit too long to kind of, feel alert right afterwards. Mahesh Kupe, what is your
Yes,
question about electrolytes?
my question was that we are giving, my daughter is a swimmer. We are giving her orange juice with Himalayan salt and honey every night as an electrolyte. Is it right mixing that salt, Himalayan salt?
Mixing it with the
Orange juice and honey. Yeah.
I've not heard of that particular mix, but it sounds, it sounds like you're getting a lot of the vitamins from the orange juice and you're getting the salt. So I've made homemade electrolyte beverages with lemon juice, honey, and salt. So
Okay.
that's how we sometimes make. All you did was switch out, the lemon juice for the orange juice. So that sounds pretty good.
Okay. So that's okay for her.
Yes, I think so. And if she likes it, great. I don't know
Okay.
how much honey you need though.
Okay.
It just depends on what kind of orange juice it is. But if it's got a lot of sugar, you might not need the honey, but I'm
No,
not sure. I don't know her carbohydrate needs.
it's the natural orange juice without sugar.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. It probably has about 17 grams of sugar per I guess 8-ounce serving. So
Okay.
you can add some honey to it. Just kind of monitor her energy levels, and yeah, that could be supportive of her electrolyte.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even I saw so many swimmers eating just honey during the meets. So how effective that is during the meets?
Yeah. It's just like the gummies, except it's natural. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
of course. Thank you guys. Well, I appreciate it. I hope you have a great evening. Here's my contact information. I'm doing more reels now. I'll be putting out more information. So if you want to go to Maria, the Powerful Athlete, and follow, you can also send me your questions through there. Okay. Thanks very much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll be sharing the recording. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome. Good night, Simona.
Bye.
Say bye to Sarah.